Strap in for a roller coaster ride where curiosity, humor, laughter, and the odd taste of wisdom is applied to understanding the adventure of life.
Welcome to the Rawle Gene Show, the power of coaching, guided by two knuckleheads who invite you to sit in the front car with them on this ride.
Trust us, it's not as serious as it sounds.
And high fives are included. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 18 of the Rawle Gene Show. Rawle, you didn't laugh at our hilarious intro this time. I think that's a first time. Are you not taking it so serious now?
No, I just wasn't looking at it because I'm on the phone, just in between from us saying, okay, I'll see you on the show to the intro. I just got dinged with 3 people that are letting me know that they're safe. So
yeah. Well, let's hit this up. Our original show, we had planned to talk about embracing competition. We had some great things. We're going to position that into episode 19. For those of us in Canada, in many areas all over, I'm located in Kelowna, British Columbia. There's many in the Yukon and up north that are facing some tragedies and devastation around forest fires right now. And we wanted to switch and talk about how do you get through and handle stressful situations, knowing that this is an incredible, dangerous time in some of those areas for people. People are losing their homes. People are having high amounts of stress. Loved ones are reaching out to them. Yeah. So we wanted to position today around talking about that. So we're kind of going off notes and going to wing it a little bit. So if any of you as well are watching and want to engage with us, you've got questions, we hope that you are all safe and that you are there and that you are helping those who you can help.
Well, you know,
good morning, Neil.
Sorry. I should turn that off. In the intro, we talk about the roller coaster of life. Well, this is part of it. You know, I woke up this morning and, you know, my sister came home from a shift last night and she goes, did you hear about the fires? And I assumed she was talking about the fires that's happening in the Northwest Territory, Yukon, and how Yellowknife might be evacuated, which I found out from you, it was evacuated. And then she goes, no, I'm talking about Kelowna. And I said, Kelowna? Because you know, as much as I watch the news, I don't always catch everything. A couple of days ago, a friend of mine asked me if it was smoky here where I am in Toronto. And I said, no, that was in the morning. And then by the afternoon, it had gotten smoky. And I just assumed that was because of the fires in BC, because they're just raging. Like the one up in the Northwest Territory is just, I think it's probably the biggest fire in Canada's history or something like that. Anyway, so once she told me that, I've been basically spent most of this morning just reaching out to people because, you know, I lived in Kelowna for 17 years. I still have many people in Kelowna. My son is still there that I care about. And then when I found out where the fire was and it's just raging, I went online and saw a bunch of different news reports and photos. I mean, remember maybe 5-6 years ago, we had a fire on the west side, but nothing like this.
No, it was. I think I overused the word wild, but it was wild to watch. Like we were out last night taking some photos on our side where it was safe, just going like this thing was moving at an incredible, like I think it really emphasizes how quickly things can escalate and how for real we have very little control over it. Because as soon as the night fell, the bombers and everything else aren't able to be in the air. All that support that can potentially help during the daytime isn't there. Yeah. And then it's just like buckle in, be safe, do what you need to do to get yourself into a good position.
And the winds are just gusting.
Yeah.
Gusting. It's like standing at a campfire that's going out and fanning it and just watching it start to blaze up. So yeah, that's so I positioned to Gene, It's not so much to just talk about the fire, but to talk about when you have events, what do you call them? An act of nature, an act of God that has nothing to do with you. As much as we like to think we have control over things, we really don't have control over a lot. The only thing, I'll stand by, the only thing we have control over is ourselves and how we either react or respond to life. And just from talking to the people that I've been able to talk to this morning, the common thread with all of them is they're stressed out. One of my friends even said, he goes, "Oh my God, this is like so traumatic." He goes, "We just don't know." It's because I guess, for those that don't know Kelowna, British Columbia, Kelowna is, technically it's Kelowna and West Kelowna, and it's separated by a big lake. So the people on the Kelowna side have always kind of felt relatively safe because we have the big lake. Well, not a lot of people don't realize a fire can jump the ambers and so forth. So we've had fires before on the west side, but nothing like this. And now that it's actually jumped and there's fires on the Kelowna side, now people are really starting to stress and worry. And that's when the idea came, when my friend used that word, it's very traumatizing. I go, maybe we should talk about that today, because it's not just about the fires. There's other things that happen in our lives, that, act of nature, act of God, that that we don't, we tend to sometimes in those types of situations lose our mind and lose and forget how we can manage those things. And, it's like being lost in nature. If you don't panic and you focus on what you have to do, you tend to get through. You stand a better chance of getting through those types of situations. To me, it's the same thing here. It's like, so I'm reaching out to people that I care about. I reached out to Gene, and I didn't hear from him at first, and I know you live nowhere near the fire, but as a human, it's like, oh, what's going on, right? I heard from my son. I heard from a number of people. There's still a number of people that I buzzed that I haven't heard from. So am I stressed? Yeah. And stress is an interesting word. The way we use stress sometimes is very negative. Stress can be a positive thing, because it's like going to the gym. When you work out, you're stressing your muscles to help them grow as well. So, but in this situation, I don't think, like I was telling you, I don't know how you can not be stressed. But to worry, that's a different story. I think the best thing I could tell us is, look, just pack a bag, line up your family and the people that matter to you, and make a plan. If you guys are evacuated, you have to, you follow that plan. But before that happens, prepare yourself. So you do have to do. So focus on the things you have to. And then at the end of the day, you're still going to stress and worry. Yeah. So my thing is to understand that this is for this moment, and that's it. Like I just told, I said, look, just try to focus on your breathing, and try not to let this go too crazy. Mm-hmm. As best as you can. It's easier said when you're not in the situation. I'm not physically in it, but I know people that are in it. So that's why I thought it was important to talk, because this example is one of of many that we face in life, where we have no control, and yet we worry so much about things that are out of control that we forget to, even in these stressful times, you still the rules still apply. Focus on what you have control over, and do what you can do. Mm. You can't do the things you can't do, so don't worry about this. What do you have to do right now?
Yeah, what's within your agency to take responsibility for, right? There's the saying, it's not your fault what's happening to you, but it's your responsibility on dealing with the resolution of it.
Yeah.
Right. And how you are going to deal, and how you are going to process, and how you are going to bring movement forward in it.
Yeah.
Life is going to continue to move on. How do you want to be within that?
Yeah.
And stress is meant to push and pull and contort us, and it's actually required in our growth. Like everything around us requires stress and friction to have a growth, to continue to moving. It's just like a seed has stress as it's cracking open and pushing through the dirt. And you and anybody that's in difficult situations is experiencing that stress as well, because it's creating the gap between what we want and what we have. And as the situations increase, that gap's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Acknowledging that the gap is there versus going, I don't want the gap. Yes, that's true. You don't want it. But as soon as we can start to acknowledge and accept that that gap is there, and both those words are, you see it going for what it is and accept what you are going to be able to now do from it, that relationship to the gap between what you want and what you have starts to change. And that's where you can start to put into action, right? And I think we were actually editing one of our older shows that's just up on our podcast platforms now. You were talking about, oh, my train just went totally off rail.
See, you are stressed out.
Well, but on one of the earlier shows, we were talking about stress and that gap, and it was around expectations and what's happening versus the expectations. Well, stress is an indication of that gap, and it's you can call it expectations, you can call it whatever works for you. But when you're feeling that stress, there's quite clearly a gap between what you desire and what you're experiencing.
Yeah, and what you're experiencing doesn't require you to accept it or not. It's still going to happen. So, my thing is, if that's the case, then, might as well focus on what I have control over. And a lot of times in these types of situations, this is when the mind takes over. And, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? And many things can happen from this. Again, using the fire as an example, I mean, the winds, the wind's already gusting, but it could change in a way where it takes it in a completely different direction. You really don't know. So to me, it's about, okay, one of the things when you're dealing with these stressful situations, and we'll do some of the coaching tips now, is can you find a way to step out of the emotions of the situation and go, what do I need to do to get myself to a place where I can focus on the moment and what's going on? Right? That's why I always tell people, step out of it and focus on your breathing. If anything, that right there, just focus on your breathing. Deep breaths in and let it out. And not just a couple, even try to spend a few minutes just being in that state, just to bring your stress levels down, right? So you can think, because one of the reasons the lizard brain goes crazy is because you're not breathing properly, you're not taking enough oxygen, and you're overthinking, and you're allowing your brain to go crazy about things that you have no control over, that hasn't happened more times than not. And that's what everyone's worried about. So what do? Focus yourself, breathe, get yourself under control. Okay, what do we need to do? Like I was telling my son this morning, pack a bag. He hadn't packed a bag. I said, pack a bag now.
Yeah, just in case.
Pack a bag now. What are the things you want to take, knowing that you can't take everything? So take what's really most valuable, because how many times you've heard of catastrophes where people said, oh, I didn't even have a chance to grab photos or whatever that if it's lost, it's lost. I go, here's your opportunity. You have a warning that's telling you something is coming. Now, it may not hit, but it's telling you if the conditions continue, it's coming.
It could. It's yes, and
it's coming. So take the time to pack and get everyone in an area where if you have to go, you don't have to worry. Where's Johnny? Where's Carmela? You don't worry. It's like everyone is here. So what do you have control over is in your, you have control over your readiness, your preparedness. When you're talking about the stress in the past video, when you talk about being proactive, going back to the first habit of being proactive, every situation requires something from you. And are you willing to take that gap of time to go, what is this situation asking of me? What is it that I can do right now to prepare myself to move forward in this situation? Right. So,
I remember the connection from the last show. We were talking about stress and the reactionary of it, because there will be times, especially in situations like this, where in that episode 2 Rawle referenced a reaction. If seeing your kid on the street about to get hit, you're going to react. You're not going to sit there and think about same thing. If you're in a position where you're getting a knock on the door or a message on your cell phone to get the fuck out of your house, you get the fuck out of your house and you go, right? Like it's not like, what's the best thing for me right now? There's a time and a place for creating the gap. And that's why what Rawle's pointing to is like, you get an opportunity to be prepared, because when the door is knocked on, you're going to default to the lowest level of your preparedness.
Yes.
That's all you're going to have available to you. So if you have these opportunities to have certain things in your life, now this can apply in a natural disaster like we're facing across many provinces and territories in Canada here, is like, do you have a little go bag? Do you have the most important things that if everything else was lost, you could grab those in under 10 minutes and get the hell out of there?
Yeah.
Here's an opportunity to rethink about what is actually important to you and be prepared for that case, knowing if all else is lost, what must we take?
Yeah. And even when you're sorry, go ahead, Gene. Sorry.
It fits into a duffel bag and go.
And even when you're preparing, you're still going to be stressed. You're still going to be thinking, but you're doing. And you'll find that when you're really doing, you're not overstressing, you're not overthinking. And you might have more control over your thinking. It's not so much the thoughts that show up. It's which thoughts are you going to give energies to, right? Because a bunch of thoughts are going to show up around a situation like this. But which thoughts are you going to give energies to, put into your internal conversation that's just going to ruminate over and over, as opposed to, okay, I can't control what shows up in regards to the thoughts, but I have control over which thoughts I put into action. And right now, my action is, how do I prepare myself? Because once they knock on that door, your survival kicks in. It's the survival that kicks in. You want to stay alive, and you want to make sure that the people that matter to you stay alive. Right? This is why a lot of times people, it's a ways off. They don't worry. Fire is not something to be messed with, just like water, because it moves. And you watch it in a movie, and sometimes I remember watching a movie once with firefighters that got overwhelmed by a fire, and they were even amazed at how quickly it moves. I remember that scene from that movie. The movie, I can't remember the name of the movie right now, but and it's like that.
Backdraft.
No, it's not Backdraft, but anyway, yeah, that's another good one, because we look at a fire on our stove or campfire and so forth. And even the pictures that you posted and some of the photos I've seen and the videos, it's beautiful, but it's deadly, and it moves so quickly.
It is the epitome of the good, bad, beautiful, and the ugly.
Or the destructive creation that I talk about.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in another show, the destruction creation, because it is beautiful, but yet deadly. So, but anyway.
I think I want to add on to this as well, is like we're talking about being proactive. We're talking about being prepared, giving yourself the permission to acknowledge the gap and taking action. What I don't want to be lost on this is feeling all those feelings and not getting stuck in the story of the feelings.
Yeah.
But there's grief, there's sadness, there's loss. There's all the emotions, and in these situations, they are going to be punched to an incredibly high level.
Yeah.
They deserve to be felt. You are not wrong for feeling any of those.
No.
And what I hope for anybody that's listening and watching is that that you're safe and that you're in a good place, and to allow yourself to feel that without, as it is, not making it any worse or any better than it truly is happening for you in that moment. Is like, just be like, what is happening below my neck, and letting it all be experienced.
Yeah.
That too is just as important as being prepared and getting through it, because that is part of that gap of acknowledging, going, I'm feeling the stress, I'm feeling the sadness, I'm feeling loss, I'm feeling scared. What's that like in my body? And just being connected to it once you're in a position of being safe.
Yeah.
And as well positioning you know, in many of our conversations, we talk about thriving because that's in our coaching practice. That's where we're taking our clients from that place of survival to thriving.
Right.
But in these situations, survival is not a bad thing. Like it's an incredible, there's a reason that our species has made it through so many things because of our ability to survive. And this too, we will, as a grand species, survive this. And there is a time and place for thriving, and there's a time and place for surviving, and acknowledging it and not beating yourself up for being in that spot either.
And there's a time and place for everything. And, you know, you made some valid points. You should feel it. But also, you know, my thing to people is you have time to grieve. Grieve is something that'll come afterwards. But feel what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. My thing is don't get stuck in any of it. Don't get stuck in any of it. Because ultimately you want to survive, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you want your things to survive. You worked hard for it. Why wouldn't you? But in that moment, that may be out of your control. Yeah. So, like I said, if that happens, you'll deal with it then. That's not happening now. So don't worry about what you might lose. That's not now. It's not guaranteed. We don't know, right? The winds could change, right? We're talking about a fire, but in anything in our lives, any situation that seems hard,
the winds, the proverbial winds can change at any moment
without notice, and it could go away and change and morph into something else. So my thing is, try not to focus on things that have not happened yet, and focus on what's happening now. Once you feel that your safety is taken care of, and those that matter to you, one of the best things you can do is be of service. Who can you reach out to and find out what they're doing? How are they doing? If it's in your neighborhood and you're not in a dangerous neighborhood, and you know you can still move around, how can you help your neighbors in their preparedness as well? You know, keep yourself busy in that regards, because a lot of times people sit around and they wait. I was talking to one friend, she's kind of sitting around and wait. I go, what else can you do besides sitting around? Because you're sitting around and this is taking control and it's going crazy. And she goes, you're right, I need to do something. I go, see how your neighbors are going. Go knock on you know, you live in a nice condo, go knock on your neighbor's door and goes, hey, are you guys okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Right? Because part of sometimes making ourselves feel better and taking care of ourselves is helping others. The ability to help others is very therapeutic as well, and it can help with that trauma. Because like I said, that word stuck with me this morning when my friend used that word. He goes, this is very traumatic. And you go, yeah, you're right, it is traumatic, right? So to me, that's one way you can deal with it. There's no right or wrong way. We're just trying to give you helpful tips. Like Gene says, though, don't ignore your feelings. Feel it. Just don't get stuck in them. But feel them, because they're there to serve you. To serve you well. There's a reason why you have those. You know, like I said, I'm helpless in this because I'm halfway across the country, right? And I have to trust my son's resourcefulness, and his mother is there, that they'll be fine. Right? I have to trust that. So me worrying about what could possibly happen to him, that's not helping him, and it's definitely not helping me. Yeah. Right? So I just spoke with him and we continued to speak, and we were just speaking before we came on, and said, hey, keep me in the loop. He goes, definitely, Pops, I'll keep you in the loop. And I go, you know, if things hit the fan and you forget to text me, don't worry about it. Once you get settled, let me know, because I know you have to move and all this stuff. Yeah. So, and that's why, you know, it like I said, we're using the fire as an example, because, you know, we have many things in our lives that happen that just seem to come out of the blue, and it's like, you know, why is this happening? Well, the question isn't why right now. Yeah, we'll have time in the future to ask why. Right now is, what do you need to do to prepare yourself? So, when life throws you these curveballs, you know, especially in the moment of them, asking the why question is not relevant to the moment, because like right now, the fire doesn't care why or what you're thinking or whether you're accepting it or not. The fire is doing what the fire is doing. What are you supposed to do? What are you doing to prepare yourself? How are you preparing yourself to have the strength for yourself and for others that relies on your strength? So, and the biggest strength is if you can stay calm in stressful situations, you stand a better chance of moving through it in a I don't say holistic way, in a way that doesn't add more stress to the situation. Because I don't want people to think you should not have stress. No, you're going to be. This is a stressful situation. It's going to be stressful. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, well, accept the fullness of it.
Yeah,
it's like you just accept there's this, like we said before, there's no right or wrong to it, but like accepting the fullness of what you're experiencing as you're experiencing it. No better, no worse than it is, but as it is, full and whole.
And everyone has different capacities in how they deal with situations, right? To me, the biggest thing is not finding fault with yourself if you feel you're not handling something well. If you know you're not handling something well, then now you have the opportunity to change that course and do something different, right? It's funny how life works. It's like everything happens for you, for your growth and learning. Everything, even the most stressful, even the most damaging of experiences, there's still opportunities for you to go, okay, what do I need to do? How do I want to be in this situation? And that's, to me, one of the biggest things as well. It's not just what you do. How do you want to be? And if you feel that you're losing control, who can you turn to? Who can you talk to in that moment? If you have a husband or a wife or whoever your partner is, or your kids or friends, whatever, talk it out, talk it through, right? Let's just have a moment of checking in sanity and go, where are we? What are we afraid of? What are we scared of? And get it out. Like Gene says, don't hide it, feel it. But then put a time limit and go, okay, this is a serious situation. What do we need to do to ensure that we get out of this the way we want to get out of this? And once you feel that you have that done, okay, who can we help? Because I think helping others is one of the best ways to get through these types of situations, within your ability and within your safety as well, right? Because if you're putting yourself in unsafe situations that's going to hurt you, then you're obviously hurting yourself and your family. So you got to balance it. But it's one of the best ways to get through this is once you feel that you're secure, who can you help? Right? Who can you help? It keeps you busy. It keeps you focused. It keeps you in a state of empathy because it helps you to realize we're not the only ones going through this.
No.
Right?
No, it's like it comes back to being, how do you want to be in that community? Once you get to this place where you're safe, you get connected with what you're experiencing, then it's like, okay, now what next? How can I be of service?
And it's
funny.
How can
I be of service to my family? How can I be in service to the people I'm around in this small community where we're maybe positioned? And how can I be of service to the greater whole?
And it's in these types of situations where you see the spirit of our humanity. If anything, you can almost do it from a selfish standpoint, because you will see people that are willing to risk their own safety, their lives at times, to help somebody else. Not just somebody, to even help pets. We always think about people. Don't forget, pets are part of people's families. So there's many people that have lots of pets. I was talking to a friend that had horses, and they were lucky to get the horses out. Right. So, but you get to see our human spirit in a different way, and how much we actually sometimes do value life and the things that we're willing to do to save others. This is why, to me, part of the therapeutic process in this kind of a situation is to be of service. Right. Once you feel that your family is taken care of, how can I go help? And when you do that, you'll see others with that same mindset and willing to help. And what this needs to be moved. Okay, let's get people and move it, or whatever it is. And so, it's an unfortunate experience, but it's also a very fortunate experience if you can step out of it and see what it really is, right? And see what it really is, and staying present.
Yeah.
Staying
when
present.
That's the key. And yeah, it's just like,
I'll speak from my own experience. Again, I've talked about the passing of my daughter. I think one of the main reasons I was able to handle that so well is because I purposely and consciously stayed present. I didn't worry about the what ifs. What didn't I do? I didn't worry about things that may come or didn't come. I stayed very focused and present in the moment and checking in with myself and where am I? How am I really feeling? That's one of the things I kept asking myself. Is that how you're really feeling? How are you really feeling? So to me, being present, being mindful of yourself to go, I am going to focus on the moment and what's in front of me. What's the back of me and what's to come, that's irrelevant right now. I'm going to stay in the moment because there's enough in the moment. There's more than enough in the moment, if you're in the moment, for you to do that will help you through this. And one moment will take you to the next and to the next, right? Even in your state of stress.
100%.
Even in your state of stress. So I don't know. I just thought this was something that we needed to do. It's the Rawle Gene Show. We do it live.
Yeah.
Well, this is what's happening in our lives right now. Gene's in it to some degree. I'm in it, but not the same way he is because I'm halfway across the country.
And we're all kind of witnessing it, right? And there's a shared stress and experience and all the things just from the witnessing it. And like we said at the top of the show, we hope those who are able to get safe are doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And also call to thank the men and women who are on the front line fighting these fires all over Canada.
Yeah.
They made a choice to go do a dangerous ass job in the benefit of the rest of us.
One of my friends, you know her ex deals with wildfires. He's in Kamloops right now, which is another city not far from Kelowna, managing this fire, and his property is in the fire zone.
Yeah.
His people have been evacuated, so they're safe. But he doesn't know what's going to happen with his property, yet he's out there fighting for other people. Right. So
we've all got somebody, like my young cousin is out there in Adams Lake been fighting that fire for a while now too, right? So these people have stepped up in a way that a lot of us may never. And it takes a big set of bravery, to go do that.
That's
because it's not an easy job.
It's not an easy job at all.
And people are getting dropped out of helicopters and being put where these fires are raging the hardest to save as many people and to save as much of our forests as possible during these times.
Yeah, it's the people fighting on the ground, the people flying, the bombers, the choppers, the police and firefighters that are helping to evacuate. It's our town officials that are helping to come up with these plans or to implement them because, most they already have plans in place, but plans are great when things aren't stressful. When things get stressful, things change. So you got to be adaptable.
It's the old Mike Tyson quote: "Plan is great until you get punched in the face."
Exactly.
Right?
We got
punch in the face.
We got punched in the face.
You still got to get going.
You still have to. It's like Gene was saying earlier. He goes, maybe we shouldn't even do the show, but what's going on? And then he even talked to himself, going, no, the show has to go on because life keeps going on. The fire or whatever situation happens doesn't care whether you accept it or not. It's going to do what it's going to do.
That part it doesn't give a shit about.
Doesn't care. Your acceptance or not acceptance is not a requirement to the fire at all. And that's the same thing with a lot
that is the metaphor in life, is like whatever that problem is, that your own internal natural disaster, it don't give a shit about your acceptance, your acknowledgement, or if you love the outcome. It's still happening. And it's giving you an opportunity to be like, how are you going to be with this? because it's happening.
Well,
And
like
there's many things in life that are outside of most things in our life are outside of our control. At best, we have influence.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah.
Well,
like I said, we have some influence.
I keep using my daughter's death as that example. Whether I accepted it or not, I wasn't going to change what happened at all. So to me, it's like that happened. Okay, I chose to accept it, because not accepting it doesn't matter.
That's not a requirement of the outcome.
Not a requirement. No. I chose to accept it for me.
Yeah,
because it happened. And like I said, I made a commitment to stay present. Not accepting it to me was not staying present, not being in the moment. That is what happened. It sucked. And suck is a nice way of putting it. But whether I thought it sucked or it didn't suck, or it was 40 degrees of suckiness, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. That's my perception. It's not going to change what has happened. And now I have a choice. Whether I want to accept it or not, I still had a choice. And I think this is what we're trying to get across. If anything, the coaching tip is, when these things happen, as traumatic as they are, as tragic as some of these experiences can be, you still have a choice to accept it or not accept it. And whether you accept it or not accept it isn't relevant to the experience, because the experience is going to happen. Whether Gene and I sit here and go, that damn fire, or don't accept it, or go through the phases of grief right now, the fire is going to go, okay, we're still going to rage. We're still going to burn. So it's up to us. And this is why, again, I thought it was important that we talk about this, because, it's like these fires that are raging, not just here in Canada, geez, listening to the news around the world, it's like, the Middle East, Greece went through some major fires. Still raging in a lot of islands in the Mediterranean that are just getting decimated. So it's not just here.
And like Hawaii, and like
places that Hawaii,
whole cities being razed to the ground.
Yeah.
Right. Like
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know what. Honestly, I don't know where else what we're going to add more to it, other than kind of circling around it. It's like, the shit sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't care if you acknowledge and accept it. It's still going to suck.
Yep.
Now what?
And you'll have time to grieve afterwards. Right now, in the moment, focus on what you need to do. But before that, really check in with yourself. Really do a quick mental check of where you are physically, where you are emotionally, where you are mentally, even where you are spiritually. Do a quick check-in. As I said, use your breath as a means to ground and center yourself, right? Control your breathing, right? And to breathe. A lot of times we don't breathe enough in these types of situations. This is why this goes crazy. Use your breath as a means to center and ground yourself, and check in with yourself. We're going to check in with other people, but check in with yourself first. Where am I? Like Gene said earlier, what are you feeling? Understand it and feel it. And then don't get stuck in it, because you have things to do. Right? And that's just going to be, I guess, constant in life, in the chaos, the roller coaster ride that we scarily talk about in our intro. But that's the roller coaster ride. So
that's the one we're on.
Yeah, it's not so much about me talking about it. I just think we're just trying to get certain points across. So whether you're facing these fires that are raging in BC or in other parts of the world, or whether you're dealing with a family member that is sick, that's going to die, or a pet, or whether you're dealing with the loss of a job, or you're worried about whether you're going to have a job in these economic times that we're living in. Those are all stressful situations that can bring about a lot of trauma. And you're your first own doctor to some degree, if you can really check in with yourself and go, okay, I've gone through this before. That's one of the things we need to remind ourselves. We've gone through tough times before, and sometimes we forget that. This is why, again, I wore this shirt. You are resilient. You have it in you. You've been on this roller coaster from the moment you came into this world. So anyway, we appreciate the indulgence of people allowing us to shift focus because of life happening.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to
talk about competition next time.
Yeah, well, competition kind of ties in to some degree in all of this, but yeah, we'll get back to that. But we appreciate it. I just think as coaches, it's just a little thing that we can do for our community, not just for people facing fires, but for our community that's facing stressful situations in their lives right now. Right? Yeah. You place the fire and put your stressful situation. I like to think the advice that we just offered applies regardless. So anyway,
Neil, we see your comments. Thank you, brother, for watching along and sharing that this was a good conversation. We love that feedback, and it definitely helps.
Yeah.
As we kind of are getting to this point of wrapping up episode 18 of the Rawle Gene Show today. Rawle, is there any last parting words to share?
The only thing I could say to people is just be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. It's almost impossible to be gentle with others if you're not gentle with yourself, in a sense where you're not going to be depleted. So be gentle with yourself so you can be gentle with others. And understand that we all have a lifetime membership on the roller coaster until our last breath. So even in the hard, stressful situations, do your best to enjoy the ride, because it doesn't last long, right? Roller coaster doesn't just continuously go down. It goes down and up, and it does the bend. And so we will get through this, and whatever you're going through, you will get through this. Even in the times when it feels like you won't, you will get through this. And you just have to sometimes go back and recall some of the tough things that you've gone through, because resiliency and resilience come from these types of experiences.
Yeah.
And you already have it in you. Yeah. Be gentle with yourself so you can let it out, and then go help your community. So
nothing else to add, stack on top of that. So thank you very much for our parting words here, Rawle. To everybody else, if you're still watching and listening, thank you so much for joining us on episode 18 of the Rawle Gene Show, The Power of Coaching. If you've liked what you heard, definitely smash that like button, hit subscribe. We're available on YouTube, LinkedIn, and now on all the audio platforms. So come follow us there as well. Until next week, please be safe, be gentle with yourself, and be in service to the rest of the community. Have a good one. Oh, one last thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.